Some people have Sweata Weatha. I've got Bruschetta Weatha.
Let's spend time with Marco, but the food is the star, so it's probably worth sharing.
Hello, I'm Marco, and welcome to my home kitchen. Today I want to show you how to make Herby Bruschetta. It is a beautiful way to celebrate the harvest season because you have heirloom tomatoes and heirloom garlic available at the same time, and you can get really delicious, beautiful local flavors. This dish is super fun because you can change it with the seasons. So if you've got a really hot day like I have today, you can make this with mint and basil and lemon juice, and that's gonna be a really fun, bright celebration of summer. As the evenings start cooling down, you can change the flavor by swapping the herbs out for parsley, oregano, or thyme. You can also swap the lemon juice for red wine or white wine vinegar. And that's going to give you a deeper, more savory flavor to go with dishes like pasta. For ingredients, you're going to need 1 kilogram of tomatoes. I'm using heirlooms. You can use whatever you have. 1 to 3 cloves of garlic, depending on how much you like garlic. I'm using music garlic, which is a heirloom variety that's really mild and sweet and great for raw applications. The juice of a lemon and about half a cup of fresh tender herbs. Today I'm using half mint, half basil, 4 tablespoons of olive oil, plus another 2 tablespoons for the crostini, grams of salt, black pepper, and a baguette or a loaf of ciabatta. For special equipment, I highly recommend you use a serrated knife for cutting tomatoes. It's easier and safer. You're also going to need a chef's knife for the herbs and a microplane for the garlic. Putting this together is pretty easy. It's mostly just chopping, so let's start with the tomatoes. When you're buying tomatoes, particularly heirloom tomatoes that come in a wide variety of colors, it can be difficult to know which ones are ripe. So there's a few key things you can look for. One is that it's quite heavy for its size. This tomato has heft. The next thing to look for is how does it smell? A tomato that smells like a tomato is going to taste like a tomato. If it smells like nothing, it's going to taste like nothing. The last thing is how does it feel when you give it a squeeze? If it is completely firm, that tomato is going to possibly have a mealy texture and it's not completely ripe yet. If it's incredibly soft, it'll be delicious, but you're going to need to use it that day. The perfect tomato will have just a little bit of give and you can squeeze it gently. That's a perfect tomato. The easiest way to break down one of these tomatoes is to first cut right beside the vine at the top, then cut on the other side of that as well, and then cut around the core to remove the top. That's going to give you the most yield out of these tomatoes when you're slicing them like this. Take the 2 halves of the tomato flat side down and cut them 1/4 inch across into slices. You don't need to break out the ruler for it, it'll be fine. Once you have these beautiful slices, you can cut them into 1/4 inch again, and that's going to give you the perfect pieces for bruschetta with the least amount of messing around. If you don't have a serrated knife for your tomatoes, you can use a chef's knife, but the best way to do that is to pierce the skin and then slice down. That's going to make sure that you get right through the tomato and not end up in a situation where the knife can slide off the tomato skin. Next, you want a few cloves of garlic, depending on how much you like garlic. I like garlic quite a lot, so I'm going to use 3 cloves. If you have a microplane, I would grate this directly into the bowl, and you can leave the peel on the garlic as you're grating. So you can see with using the microplane, super easy. It peels the garlic as you're grating. That's my preferred method. If you don't have one of these, highly recommend you grab one. They're only like $10. If you don't have a microplane, grab a chef's knife and first cut off the bottom of the garlic. That's going to make it a lot easier to peel. Then grab something flat. Don't use a knife for this because you'll see I have this cut here. Actually broke a knife crushing garlic. I'm very prone to knife accidents. What I do now is I actually take my metal bench scraper, push down, and it pops the garlic open. Now you can see the peel came out and I've got a couple pieces that are pretty easy to chop. Once you have your broken up pieces, just go to town chopping. So if you're using a knife to chop the garlic, that's the texture you're looking for. Here you want the herbs to be chopped quite fine. The easiest way to get the leaves off something like mint is to hold it by the top of the stem Then pull backwards down and all the leaves come off. Basil has no such shortcut, so you just have to aggressively pluck all the leaves. The basil leaves are large and easy to stack and roll, so I'm going to just kind of put them into a big pile and smush them together and give an initial rough chop. Now that they're vaguely the same size as the mint leaves, I'm gonna push everything together. To make this easy when you have a big pile of herbs like this, I push the knife straight down, 90 degrees to my body. Then I'll turn the knife the other way and do the same rocking motion. This is going to help keep all of the herbs in place so they're not bouncing around and you miss a bunch of different pieces. Reorganize them with your bench scraper and repeat. So I did that chopping motion 3 times, and you can see I have this really beautiful, finely chopped set of herbs. Now I need the juice of a lemon. Four tablespoons of good olive oil. This is one of those situations where you do want to use a really good olive oil because it is quite a lot of the recipe and it's not getting cooked. Last ingredient here is 5 grams of salt. You're going to be adding more salt later after this has time to marinate, so go easy on the salt here. You can always add it, you can't take it away. I've got everything in the bowl now, so I'm going to give this a stir. It smells amazing and my mouth is watering and I really want to eat it right now. But it's going to taste so much better if you leave it for at least 30 minutes and up to 3 hours. During that time, the salt is going to pull the moisture out of the tomatoes, which will give you a saucier final texture, and the garlic is going to mellow out. That's also the perfect amount of time to turn this baguette into crostini, which I'll show you how to do right now. There's a few different ways you can make crostini depending on how crunchy you want it to be and how fresh you're going to be serving it. If you're planning to pack this up and take it to a barbecue, I would make this like olive oil toast. So check out my video to learn how to do that. But I'm going to show you how to do this in the oven today, which is a really easy way to make this for a lot of people. First, cut your baguette in half and then determine should you cut your halves into half or into thirds. I'm going to do thirds. Next, stand each baguette piece up on the cut side and cut it in half. And it should look something like this. Finding a really good baguette versus a grocery store baguette is totally worth it for a recipe like this. I got this from a bakery just up the road. There were 30 people in line in front of me, and it was totally worth the wait just from the smell alone. Once you have all of your slices, you want to get out a baking sheet and put your baguette pieces on top. Then take about 2 tablespoons of olive oil and drizzle that over all the pieces. And I now have an oven right here. So this is gonna go into a preheated oven at 475. This is what you want the crostini to look like when it comes out. So now all that's left to do is taste the marinated tomatoes and assemble. Once your tomatoes have had a chance to sit for a while, you want to give them a quick taste test. As expected, it is extremely delicious. You can see how much water has now been pulled out of the tomatoes and is part of the bruschetta mix. The garlic will have also mellowed out during this time, so it's important to adjust the flavor after that marinating time. There's a few different areas where you might want to shift the flavors depending on what you're tasting. If it's kind of bland, maybe you had unripe tomatoes, you might want to increase the lemon juice or increase the salt. If the garlic is super hot and kind of punching you in the face with flavor, you can mellow that out with some additional olive oil. If it's too salty, you can add some sugar or some olive oil. And you can also do that if it's too acidic, like let's say you had some very sour tomatoes or a super sour lemon. Mine just needs black pepper because I forgot to put that in earlier. So I'm going to add that and then put this together. Grab 1 piece of crostini, whoop, and put 1 or 2 spoons of tomatoes on top. And you want to make sure you get some of that juice from the tomatoes into the bread. That's going to give it a really delicious depth of flavor, especially if your bread got a little bit dry in the oven. Set each of these on your serving platter and assemble. If you're planning to make this ahead for a party, I would make the olive oil fried toast variation, and you can watch a video on my channel for how to do that. The olive oil toast is going to resist moisture better, so as you pack it up for storage, it'll transport and stay crispy. Then I would assemble it wherever you're going. So if you're taking this to a barbecue, I would put it together once you get there instead of making it in advance. One reason being the bread will stay crispy, and the other is that these would totally fall over in the car. Or bike. Or in your hands. It all depends on how you're traveling. I need a little plate to taste this because it's going to be very messy. This is so delicious. The tomatoes are definitely the star of the dish. There's this beautiful mellow garlic flavor. There's this pop of brightness from the lemon. The herbs are just so fun and playful and bright. And the bread is just perfectly crispy, crunchy, delicious. Please make this while it's still Bruschetta Weatha. It needs good tomatoes, it needs good garlic, it completely changes the dish. If you enjoyed this video, please like and please subscribe. I have a lot of really great vegetable-forward seasonal recipes for you to check out, and tons of fun stuff coming the rest of this year. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
So it's probably worth sharing.
I had messages out to people saying, who wants to pick up bruschetta tonight? And I need to rescind all of those messages because I'm gonna eat all of this myself. It's so good.